guys, tonight we drift into a world both strange and familiar, where cobblestone paths wind beneath mossy trees, flickering torches crackle against wattle and daub cottages, and somewhere in the still night, a portal hums quietly. You are not meant to be here, but then again, maybe you were always meant to be chosen. This story will be very boring. Do not fall asleep. So, before we continue the story, give me just 1 minute. Tomorrow will be a long day, so rest a little at our bonfire. Let everything slip from your mind, take a deep breath, and relax every part of your body. Where are you listening from tonight? Leave your city or village and your local time in the comments. I'm always curious where our little sleepy fellowship gathers from around the world. Now let's go together with the historical journey tonight. You don't remember falling asleep. One moment you're stretching on your couch, listening to some relaxing video about medieval recipes made with barley and pickled turnips, and the next, you're flat on your back in a clearing surrounded by tall ash trees. Mist clings to your arms. The air smells like rain and damp horses. A figure stands over you, a man, in a threadbare cloak, hair like tangled straw, eyes wide with disbelief. By St. Crispin's laces, he whispers, crossing himself. The sign hath come. You try to sit up but groan. Your head spins like you're waking from a long dream. The ground beneath you is not carpet, it's grass and mud. Your phone gone, your shoes, not exactly medieval hiking approved. A snort breaks your thoughts and the man kneels beside you. Are you... He leans in as if testing a theory. The one from the sky parchment. Now, no offense to your usual self-image, but you've never been mistaken for a celestial being. Before you can correct him, he produces a crumpled scroll. On it, a faded ink drawing that sort of looks like you if you squint and forget your 21st century hoodie. The man says his name is Tomlin, and he is a journey knower, the local term for a traveling messenger with a knack for minor magic and major storytelling. He tells you that according to village prophecy, someone clothed strangely with hands soft as custard and breath like cinnamon, okay, rude, will appear at the full moon's rising, sent to bring balance to the troubled lands. You glance upward. Yep, full moon, big as a dinner plate. This can't be real. It has to be a dream. You even pinch yourself, which hurts a lot. That doesn't help your situation, nor does the fact that you're being offered something called witch milk tea in a wooden cup. It tastes like warm thistles and regret. Tomlin insists he's seen the signs: birds flying backwards, frogs croaking lullabies, a sheep that spelled your name in oats. Historians still argue whether rural medieval folk actually believed such omens, or whether storytellers like Tomlin helped shape these tales retroactively. Either way, he believes, and very deeply at that. As you walk with him, well more like limp, you pass through a thicket and stumble upon a curious sight. A standing stone split neatly in two, still steaming faintly. Last night, Tomlin says solemnly. Lightning cracked it when the moon reached her height. I heard your name on the wind. You're not sure if you're the subject of a very elaborate prank or caught in a live-action role play gone wild. But the cold is real. The blisters forming on your heel are real. And the way the dirt smells like wet roots and cow is real. Your destination is Fruckmere, a village nestled by a sluggish river and surrounded by meadows dotted with sheep, and alarmingly large geese. Tomlin says the elders will want to see you at once. You try to protest to explain that you're not special, you're not magical, you're just a regular human who once failed a bread-making class. But he's already announcing your arrival at the edge of the settlement. Children peek out from behind hay carts. A dog barks, then stops as if stunned. An old woman drops her turnips. A man falls off a ladder into a haystack and does not reappear. In the center of the village, beneath a crooked tree, hung with faded cloth ribbons and what looks suspiciously like a fox skull, a council of elders assembles. They wear robes dyed with onion skins and beetroot, and one of them carries a staff topped with a taxidermied squirrel. Is this the one the squirrel staff bearer asks? Tomlin nods so vigorously his hood falls off. They appeared at the Stone of Cradle Moon. Look at their hands, soft as pudding. You hold up your hand self-consciously. Hi. To your surprise, one elder begins to cry. Another kneels. A third offers you a pie made of honey and eggs, which you accept automatically because, hey, time travel makes you hungry. Throughout the village, murmurs grow. The chosen, the moon chosen, returned at last. It's overwhelming, odd, a little sweet, but also very, very real. And somewhere deep in your gut, something stirs like recognition or maybe indigestion from the witch milk tea. You glance back at Tomlin. So what now? He smiles, crooked and kind. Now we prepare for what lies ahead, my moon-fated friend. You wake up the next morning in a straw-stuffed mattress that might generously be called a bed. The room smells of time wool and something unidentifiable that's definitely not from this century. Your blanket is scratchy. The rooster crowed 4 times before dawn, and someone outside has been playing the same flute tune for what feels like an eternity. But you're not in a dream. The wooden beams overhead are real low enough to bonk your head on. You sit up slowly, trying to piece it all together. Last night was not a fever dream. You are, for some inexplicable reason now, the subject of a prophecy in a village that runs on superstition sheep and soggy porridge. Tomlin bursts in with the kind of energy only someone who's never owned a smartphone could have. They await you by the elder's stump. You're handed clothing rough spun, linen leather boots, a size too big, and a wool cloak that smells like it used to belong to a goat named Philip. The villagers have gathered outside, whispering and staring. Some offer baked goods. One girl shyly hands you a flower crown. You're not sure whether this is reverence or mild confusion, but either way it's a warm welcome. As you follow Tomlin toward the center of the hamlet, you see more clearly what this world is like. The houses lean with age, their thatched roofs sprouting the occasional mushroom. Chickens strut around like they pay rent. Smoke from morning fires curls into the pale sky, where crows perch like judgmental sky critics. The Elder Council waits for you. Again. It's becoming a habit. Squirrel Staff greets you first. You've learned his name is Eldwin, and he takes himself very seriously. You are to live among us, he proclaims, and learn our ways, that your spirit may root itself in the soil of prophecy. Translation, they expect you to become one of them. You're assigned a cottage, a modest one with a leaky roof and a lopsided door, but it's yours. And just like that, you've moved in. No rent, just chores. Because as Tomlin says, no magic can fix a lazy backside. Your first task is gathering eggs. Simple, right? until one hen, a beast called Gerda, launches a full-scale assault on your hand. You flee yelping with one cracked egg and a wounded ego. Nearby, a blacksmith named Edda laughs until she snorts. "Don't take it hard," she says, wiping her hands on her apron. Gerda doesn't like profits either. You help churn butter. You try your hand at weaving. You spill barley flour everywhere and sneeze for half an hour. Still, the villagers watch you with a mix of hope and wonder. And despite the humble setting, there is a strange comfort to it. A rhythm. Bread rises slowly on wooden planks. Children chase geese through muddy lanes. Someone sings a lullaby in Old English that drifts through your shutters in the afternoon. It's peaceful, mostly. At night, they throw a welcoming feast in your honor. You sit near the fire pit surrounded by benches covered in fur and woven mats. Roasted parsnips and baked apples are passed around. Mead flows freely, and the elders seem especially chatty after 2 cups. The village bard, a lanky young man with more hair than sense, begins a tale. "Hark," he calls out. "Hear the story of the star-touched traveler, born beyond the smoke mirrors, who shall walk among us in sandals of future silk." You glance down at your socks, which were knit by someone named Hilda, with yarn the consistency of tree bark. The tale unfolds. Strangely, it mirrors your arrival. The flash of light, the fall from the sky, the signs and omens. But here's the twist. According to the tale, you are meant to help Fruckmere before the green moon rises. You lean toward Tomlin. Green moon. He nods seriously. Comes but once every 40 years. Brings with it change. Historians still argue whether so-called green moons were natural lunar illusions, folklore, or symbolic omens used by communities to justify social upheaval. But here in Fruckmere, they take it very seriously. You begin to notice the way people look to you for answers, even when you clearly have none. A girl asks if she should marry her betrothed or wait for love. An old man presents you with a broken wheel and expects you to bless it. A cow sneezes near you, and someone declares it a sign of good harvest. And then there's the strange, quiet ones, the watchers. Not everyone is happy you're here. You catch glimpses of suspicious eyes in the shadows. A few villagers mutter behind your back. And when you step too close to the weaver's shed, someone hastily covers a set of strange symbols etched into the wood. You begin to wonder, what exactly have you walked into? One night as you return to your cottage after a rather exhausting attempt to milk a goat, you find a bundle left at your door. Inside, a soft piece of parchment, drawn with a familiar face, yours. Only this time you're standing in fire. Beneath the drawing, we remember your heart beats faster. Is it a threat, a warning, a joke? But the wind picks up, howling gently across the moor, and you hear the distant sound of a flute. Not the happy kind, the haunting kind. Like a lullaby for ghosts. You close the door, latch it, and sit quietly beside your little fire. Maybe you were chosen, but chosen for what? The next morning you awaken before the rooster. Not because you're eager, but because someone throws a pebble at your window. It clinks once, then again. When you open the wooden shutter, Tomlin stands below, bundled in his traveling cloak, and chewing something that looks suspiciously like salted mushroom. Get dressed, he says cheerfully. You're coming with me? The elders approved it. Approved what? A journey, of course. He grins. To prove your worth to Frukmir. To be seen by those beyond. You didn't think prophecy was just pie and storytelling, did you? To be fair, you sort of hoped it was. After a hasty breakfast of oatcakes and more of that tooth-chipping goat cheese, you're equipped for the road. A walking staff, a pouch of dried berries, and a dagger so blunt it could barely threaten a turnip. You and Tomlin set off east, the village growing smaller behind you, fading into mist and meadow. The landscape rolls on muddy paths, flanked by brambles and rabbit holes, patches of woodland buzzing with morning insects and streams so clear you can see trout, laughing at your clumsy attempts to drink without falling in. You're headed for the Abbey of Elmridge, a place of learning, healing, and very judgmental monks. The elders believe the monks may have scrolls records that might shed light on the prophecy's origin, or they might just serve us lentils and stare in disapproval. Tomlin adds clearly, not fond of abbeys. As you walk, he shares more about the world you found yourself in. There are whispers of unrest in the outer regions. Some say the barons hoard grain. Others believe bandits now wear noble crests. But the strangest part is the growing belief that the green moon will bring not just change, but reckoning. You step over a fallen log, your boots squelching in the mud. Why do they think I matter in all this? Tomlin shrugs. Sometimes people need someone to pin their hope on. Doesn't matter if it's true. They believe it's true. And in these parts, belief can move more than armies. You pause near a half-collapsed shrine where moss grows over an ancient carving of a stag. Offerings lie in its crumbling alcove. Bread crusts, feathers, a carved wooden duck. One is fresher than the rest. Tomlin notices. That's not from our people, he mutters. Woods folk, maybe. You don't ask who the woods folk are. You'll find out soon enough. Further along the road, you hear rustling from the trees. Not squirrel rustling. Heavier. More deliberate. Tomlin holds out an arm to stop you. Stay still, he whispers. Bandits sometimes patrol these parts. Great. You both hide in a thicket, crouching among damp leaves and thorny vines. You hear voices low, guttural, joking about sheep with more manners than the lord's. One man carries a sword shaped like a crescent moon. Another drags a small cart filled with apples that almost certainly don't belong to him. They pass without seeing you. Only then do you breathe again. Bandits are one thing, Tomlin says, brushing off his cloak. But when the nobles start dressing like outlaws, that's when the songs get darker. The rest of the day is quieter. You snack on apples you didn't steal. Sit briefly on a rock shaped like a very unamused goat, and learn that medieval roads are mostly just hope and mud. As twilight falls, you arrive at a traveler's clearing, a kind of unofficial resting spot used for generations. A ring of stones marks old fires, and mossy stumps serve as seats. Tomlin gets a small fire going, and you sit together chewing on dried fish that taste like regret. Did you notice the bird following us? He asks suddenly. You blink. What bird? He points to a tree. There, sitting motionless, is a raven with one white feather. It stares at you. Not at Tomlin. Just you. Not a common one, he says. Some say ravens are watchers, keepers of things older than the church. You're not sure if that comforts you or just adds another weird thing to your growing list. Night fully falls. The stars come out sharper and clearer than any night sky you've ever seen. No street lights, no pollution, just darkness stars and the sound of the forest breathing. Tomlin pulls out a small pipe and begins to hum a song from his childhood, a lullaby about a river spirit who wears a crown of frogs. You lie back on your cloak and stare at the sky. Do you think I can really help these people, you ask quietly? Tomlin doesn't answer immediately. Then softly, I think you already are. That night you dream of the raven again. Only this time it speaks. In a voice like rustling parchment, it says, "Remember the tree." When you wake, Tomlin is already up tying his boots. Sleep well, chosen one. You nod slowly. I think I just got my first side quest. You continue your journey just after sunrise, your breath forming small clouds in the morning chill. Tomlin offers you a piece of honeyed root to chew, sweet, earthy, and just slightly gritty. The forest path winds ahead like a lazy snake, dew slick and dotted with fallen acorns. Birds trill in high branches, but you keep glancing upward, scanning for that raven with the single white feather. The dream still lingers. Remember the tree? You wonder what tree it meant. Every tree out here looks like it could hold 1,000 secrets, twisted oaks, silver birches, one that smells faintly of mushrooms and soup. As you walk, Tomlin begins one of his many stories. This one is about a knight who trained so hard he accidentally chopped his own armor in half and had to finish the tournament in his underclothes. The villagers back home probably still sing about it, or at least snicker. Not all heroes look grand, Tomlin says. Sometimes they're just confused travelers with odd shoes and stubborn geese after them. He's definitely talking about you. Around midday, you come to a crossroads marked by an old wooden sign. The text is faded, but one arm of the sign points towards something called Styre Root. Tomlin squints at it. We could go straight to Elmridge Abbey, or we take the long way through Styre Root. It's an old place. Lots of old trees. Sacred to some. That word again, trees. You decide to follow the Styre Root path. The trail narrows, overgrown in parts, and after an hour or so, you arrive at a clearing unlike anything you've seen. The trees here are enormous, thick-trunked bark, like cracked stone roots that twist over the earth like sleeping beasts. The air is cooler, darker, and carries the scent of damp moss and something floral, like lavender left out in the rain. In the center of the grove stands a tree that towers over the rest. Its bark is deep green, its leaves a strange, purplish hue, and carved into the trunk is a symbol, a circle with 3 spokes. You don't know what it means, but something about it stirs your chest like a memory that isn't yours. Tomlin is quiet for a long time. Then he whispers, "This is the Heartwood. Very old. People came here for answers before churches had roofs." You step closer, placing a hand on the bark. It's warm. Suddenly the forest hushes. Even the birds go silent. You blink, and for a flicker of a moment you see something strange. A woman in robes standing beneath the tree, her hands clasped, her eyes glowing faintly. She doesn't speak, but she mouths a word you can't quite catch. Then she's gone. You stumble back. Did you see? Tomlin nods slowly. I saw the wind shift. You decide not to push it. You camp that night near the Heartwood. Tomlin hums quietly while you think over the strange day. Historians still argue whether such sacred groves were remnants of pagan worship, druidic practices, or simply gathering sites later layered with myth. Whatever this was, it didn't feel like just myth. In the middle of the night, you wake to the rustle of leaves. The raven is there again, sitting silently on a fallen branch, watching you. Its one white feather gleams in the moonlight. You sit up slowly. What do you want? The raven blinks once, then takes off. In a flurry of wings circling overhead, once, twice, before disappearing. The next morning you find a fresh sprig of yarrow placed gently beside your boot. Tomlin eyes it and mutters, protection, or a warning. No pressure. Back on the road you walk through changing terrain, flatter now dotted with old fences and crumbling wells. Farmers nod to you from their fields, unaware of your status as a maybe mystical, maybe messenger. You pass through a small hamlet where a girl offers you a charm made of woven straw and dried berries. For luck, she says, in case you meet the butter hag. You pause. The what? Oh, she curses your butter to curdle if she doesn't like your shoes. Tomlin raises a brow. Old superstition. But I'd still say thank you, just in case. You do? With extra enthusiasm? That night at a local tavern, with more smoke than roof, you overhear whispers about a tacksman being chased into a pond by a goose wearing ribbons. You also hear another name yours. Someone has started calling you the Moon Marked, and the rumor mill is working overtime. It's strange to see yourself turned into myth in real time. Stranger still that it's happening so naturally, like your story has been waiting for centuries to be remembered. At the tavern fire, a merchant with teeth like corn kernels leans in. You feel it, don't you? The change. The old ways returning. Magic sniffing around the edges of things. I saw a fish leap from a barrel and say, "Hello, last week." No one believed me. You politely sip your ale and inch a little farther from him, just in case. As you rest that evening in the barn's hayloft, listening to the cows below shift in their sleep, you feel that hum again, that strangeness, the sense that you are part of something bigger than you understand. And you whisper to the shadows as a joke, "All right, tree spirit, raven, weird monks, let's see what's next." The Abbey appears just after midday, rising from the hills like a slab of old stone memory. You see it first as a silhouette, arches, towers, and a line of small figures moving slowly across a courtyard, hunched in brown robes like migrating beetles. The bell tolls once heavy and hollow as though the sky itself were yawning. Tomlin slows his pace. "Now mind your tongue in there," he murmurs. The monks have no love for chatter, especially chatter from unexpected travelers. You mean modern outsiders caught in a prophecy? He gives you a sidelong look. Exactly. The path becomes more orderly near the abbey, cobbled with old flagstones, smoothed by centuries of sandaled feet. Olive trees line the way, though their fruit looks somewhat shriveled. You pass through an archway guarded by a stone carving of a lion holding a book, and the moment you step through, the air changes, cooler, quieter, like the wind itself has bowed in reverence. Inside, the monks say very little. A tall man with a silver tonsure and eyebrows that could thatch a roof greets you with a measured glance. He says his name is Brother Anshelm and gestures for you to follow him without a word more. You trail him through vaulted hallways, echoing with footsteps and incense. The abbey smells like candle wax, rosemary, and wet parchment. In a scriptorium lit by arrow-slit windows, Brother Anselm unrolls a scroll so old it crackles like dried leaves. On it, faded ink sketches a star, falling to earth, followed by what appears to be a person in oddly shaped clothes standing beside a crooked tree. There's no face, just an outline, but the pose, it's unmistakably familiar. Tomlin peers over your shoulder. Told you. Brother Anselm clears his throat. This is one of our oldest records, predating even the founding of Fruchmere. We call it the arrival of the other. You ask him plainly, what do you believe it means? He gives you a long, unreadable look. Belief is the domain of farmers and fools. Here we study. Fair enough. Still, he lets you stay the night. You're given a small room with a single candle, a straw mattress, and a window just wide enough for a finger. The walls are etched with prayers in Old Church Latin, one of which, oddly enough, includes the word lunarum. You don't know Latin, but Tomlin thinks it means something to do with moons. Before bed, you're invited to sit in the abbey's chapel. The monks chant in slow, low harmony, a droning song that builds and fades like a tide. You sit in the back pew, eyes closed, and feel the weight of centuries settle on your shoulders. You're not just hearing this song, you're becoming part of it, and then you feel it. Not a vision, not quite a dream, a knowing. You see flashes the raven again, now sitting on the abbey's bell, a group of people dancing around the heartwood tree, a monk writing a name you don't recognize, Ellerin. You blink and it's gone. Later, in hushed tones over stale bread and goat broth, Tomlin offers his theory. Ellerin could be the one who wrote the scroll, or the first chosen, or perhaps the last one who failed. Failed? Well, Tomlin shrugs. They don't exactly keep trophies of success around here. There's silence for a while. Then he leans in, whispering. Historians still argue whether these prophecies were written after the events they describe as a sort of backwards miracle. But that look in the monk's eyes, he knows something, or fears something. Before bed, you light your single candle and stare at the flame. You've seen too much to think it's all coincidence, but you still don't know what you're supposed to do. In the middle of the night, a knock comes at your tiny door. It's not Tomlin, it's Brother Anselm. He hands you a small bundle, tightly wrapped linen, and nods once before disappearing down the hall. Inside you find a piece of parchment. On it is a drawing, new, fresh ink. It shows a figure standing beneath the heartwood tree holding a lantern. Behind them shadows, many, watching. Beneath it a single word. Soon. You sleep little. The next morning, as the bell tolls again, you're already awake, already dressed, already wondering what comes next. Tomlin finishes tying his boots and raises an eyebrow. I hope you're ready, he says, because the monks just gave us their blessing. And a map to the source, he says simply, to where your story begins and maybe ends. The map from the Abbey is unlike any you've seen. It's not the usual X marks the spot style. Instead, it's a swirling pattern of rivers, stars, and landmarks marked with cryptic symbols. A spiral, an eye, a coiled serpent, and one that matches the tree carving from the heartwood. You hold it up to the sunlight filtering through the chapel windows, and faint lines glow briefly before fading. Magical ink, Tomlin says, impressed. Very old? Possibly elven? Or perhaps just monk trickery? You set out at dawn, the abbey behind you, the map rolled tightly in your satchel. The journey takes you westward now, toward the foothills that separate the lower villages from the highlands. As you travel, the land changes. Forests thin. Stones jut up like teeth from the soil. The birds grow quiet. Even the air feels heavier. The locals call this place Hollow Vale, Tomlin explains. Not because it's empty, but because it echoes. And it does. Your footsteps crunch on gravel, and the sound trails behind you, repeating once, twice, almost like someone's mimicking you. Is that normal, you ask? Nope, he says far too cheerfully. Still, you push forward. The map leads you to a crumbling stone bridge, half swallowed by vines. There an elderly woman tends to a bundle of herbs beside a packed mule. Her eyes are milky with age, but her voice is sharp. You bear the mark, she says without greeting. You pause. What mark? She points to your wrist. You look, and there it is. Faint, barely visible, but undeniably real. The same three-spoked symbol from the heartwood, now etched into your skin like a birthmark. Wasn't there yesterday, Tomlin mutters. I checked. I always check wrists. The old woman nods solemnly. It blooms when the story deepens. You're walking the line now, traveler. Be wary. The line walks back. Before you can ask what that means, she's already gone, vanished behind a bend in the path, mule and all. Just gone. As the day wears on, clouds gather not in the sky but in your chest. Something is building. You pass a field of standing stones, tall gray speckled with lichen, and each one hums faintly when you draw near. Tomlin refuses to go between them. Bad luck, he says. One man went in to tie his boot, came out with a new name and a terrible fear of cheese. You step between them anyway, and you feel it again like back at the Heartwood. A rush, a moment of blurred time. This time you see a face, not yours. A child's maybe 12 or 13, holding the same scroll the Abbey showed you. She speaks, but there's no sound. Just her eyes, huge, dark, full of urgency. Then she's gone. Back on the path, Tomlin stares at you. You're seeing things, aren't you? You nod slowly. Good, he says. Means it's working. The map leads you next to a low ravine filled with fog. A single rope bridge spans the gap, swaying in the wind. It looks sturdy enough if your definition of sturdy includes moldy wood and fraying hemp. Tomlin stops and frowns. This wasn't here last time. You've been here before. Not here, close. The land shifts sometimes. That's the thing with magic. You cross, carefully gripping the ropes. The mist is thick, cool, and smells like sage and wet stone. Halfway across, you hear whispering not from below, but beside you. The mist carries voices. They're watching too soon. She knows. You quicken your steps. Once across, you take a moment to breathe. Then you notice a small marker stone beside the path, the same spiral from the map. You're close now. The terrain rises. Hills become cliffs, and you find yourself climbing. The wind picks up, tugging at your cloak. Tomlin grows quiet. The joking fades. There's something about this place that demands silence. And then you reach it. Atop the highest ridge sits a stone circle, 9 tall stones, arranged with perfect symmetry, each carved with one of the map's symbols. In the center, a flat slab like an altar or a meeting place. On it, laid carefully, is a small object wrapped in cloth. You approach slowly, carefully. The wind hushes. Tomlin stands back. You unwrap the cloth. Inside is a pendant circular iron-bound inset with a pale green stone that glows faintly in the light. Around its rim, the same language from the abbey walls. And the moment you touch it, you know, not knowing the I read the wiki sense, but deeply, bone deep, this was made for you. A gift, a burden, a memory. Tomlin speaks softly. This is your tether now. Every chosen has one. Ellerin had a staff. Merrill had a cloak. You get a shiny necklace. You hold it up to the sky. The clouds part just slightly, enough for sunlight to glint off the pendant and cast a soft green glow on the stones around you. The wind whispers again, but this time it speaks your name. You don't tell Tomlin. Some things are better kept for now. You descend from the stone circle as the sky begins to bruise into dusk, purples and pale oranges stretching over the horizon like a woolen shawl. The pendant rests against your chest, warm despite the breeze. Each step you take feels heavier now, not with dread exactly, but with meaning, like you've stepped onto a bridge that can't be uncrossed. Tomlin doesn't say much as you walk, but every now and then you catch him glancing at the pendant, then quickly looking away. He whistles an old tune as a distraction, but it keeps slipping off key. Is this where the prophecy ends, you finally ask? He chews his lip. More likely where it begins. The road curves downward into a valley where another settlement lies, larger than Fruchmere, with wooden palisades, stone cottages, and even a proper marketplace. It's not bustling exactly, but it hums with life. Dogs bark. Metal rings out from a forge. People call out in trade. This is Greldon Hollow. As you approach the gates, two guards eye you warily, especially your pendant. One mutters something about another moon bearer, and the other nods, slowly making a sign with her fingers. 3 lines across the palm, then a tap to the forehead. They let you in without further comment, though their eyes don't leave you. Inside, the mood is different from Fruchmere. People move with purpose. Soldiers practice drills in the courtyard. Traders hawk goods with polished charm. And children chase each other with wooden swords, shouting about Skyfall heroes and fireborn knights. You glance at Tomlin. They've heard the stories, he murmurs. Some say the prophecy spread on its own. Others say someone's helping it along. At the town square, an old man paints scrolls for coin. Prophecy scrolls. One of them shows your face again. Rough, inaccurate, but it's you. You watch as a man buys it, then tucks it reverently into his satchel. Do they all believe you ask? Tomlin shakes his head. Not all, but enough. And belief, like mold, spreads easiest in dark corners. At the tavern, you rent a room with coin gifted from the abbey. The tavern keeper is a woman with a laugh like gravel and a soft spot for travelers who don't talk too much. She hands you a key with a carved acorn on the handle and says, "Mind the ghost in the 3rd room." He mostly hums. You decide to stay in the 2nd room. That night you sit by the fire, with Tomlin surrounded by locals, sharing drinks and muttered rumors. One farmer swears he saw a fox walking on 2 legs. A weaver says her dreams are haunted by green lights and weeping trees. A knight in partial armor insists that a new order of followers called the Thorn Circle have formed, worshipping the return of the moon-marked one. You, and they're looking for you. The knight adds, giving you a very pointed glance. You raise your cup in a half-hearted toast. Later in your room, you lay awake on a lumpy mattress staring at the wooden ceiling. The pendant glows faintly, pulsing with your heartbeat. And then the air changes, cold. Still, a shadow darkens your window. You sit up, heart thudding. But when you open the shutter, there's no one there, just the street, the lamplight, the soft hiss of wind, until a figure steps from the shadows across the square. Hooded, tall, still. They raise a hand and point not at you, but at your window. And then silently they walk away. You rush downstairs, but by the time you reach the street, they're gone. Tomlin finds you minutes later barefoot and breathing hard. Did you see someone, you ask? He nods once, yes, and you'll see more. He's quiet a moment. Then softly. Historians still argue whether the Thorn Circle began as a harmless cult or a true political movement. What we know is that once the moon-marked arrived, they acted. Sometimes out of faith, sometimes out of fear. You return to your room, but sleep doesn't come easy. You dream of fire in the forest, of the stone circle cracking in two, and of a voice whispering the same word over and over. Eliran. In the morning you find something slipped beneath your door. A feather. Not from the raven. This one is black. Completely black, and tied to it with thread. A single phrase, inked in shaky script. They're waiting. The day breaks, with a sky as gray as iron, and the distant roll of thunder behind the hills. You sit in the tavern's corner, staring at the feather in your palm. It's so black, it seems to drink the light. The note still sits beside your half-eaten breakfast. They're waiting. Tomlin watches you over a bowl of something that might be porridge or cleverly disguised gravel. We need to move, he says quietly, before they arrive. Who? The Thorn Circle. You raise an eyebrow. They're not subtle, he continues. They use fear fire and a very strong love of cloaks. Not a good mix. So you leave Greldon Hollow through the south gate, blending into the merchant crowd with your hood pulled low and the pendant tucked under your shirt. The map leads you further through broken fields and scattered trees until the land smooths out into open moorland. There's a stillness here. No birds, no wind. Just the sound of your own boots crunching dry heather. And then you see them, 5 figures on the horizon, robed, hooded, walking steadily toward you. Tomlin swears softly under his breath. They never travel in small groups unless it's important, he mutters, like delivering soup, or recruiting, or something worse you suspect. You duck into a low ravine, crawling under thorn bushes, and sliding down damp soil into a hollow that smells like mushrooms and mildew. Tomlin follows, cursing every branch that smacks him in the face. There, beneath the cover of roots and brambles, you listen. The figures pass overhead in silence. One pauses, tilts their head, listening. You hold your breath. Even the pendant feels still. Then they move on. You stay crouched for a long while after they've gone, listening for the wind to return. When you finally climb out, your hands are scratched, your legs aching, and your patience worn thin. Tomlin pats your back. Congratulations. You've officially hidden from a death cult in a shrub. That's a rite of passage where I come from. By late afternoon, you reach an abandoned outpost, just crumbling walls and a half-standing tower, but it offers shelter. You set a small fire, roast some foraged tubers that taste like burnt radish, and huddle near the warmth as the sky darkens. Tomlin finally asks the question you've been avoiding. What do you think they want from you? You trace a finger around the spiral carved into the pendant. I think they want a symbol, something to control or destroy. Tomlin nods, or both. He reaches into his cloak and produces something wrapped in oilcloth. Slowly he unwraps it. It's a page, not parchment, not paper, something older. You lean closer. The texture is smooth like leather, but with etched writing that glows faintly. This, he says, is from the Book of Roots, supposedly written by the first moonbearer. Ellerin. You blink. You had this the whole time. I was waiting for the right moment, he says defensively. Would you have trusted me if I whipped out a glowing page on day one? Fair point. You study the script. It's written in a looping language not quite readable, but strangely familiar. And beneath the script is a drawing, the heartwood tree again. Beneath it 9 figures in a circle, and one standing outside it, facing away. They say Ellerin walked the circle but never joined it. Tomlin murmurs. Some say she was betrayed. Others say she chose to walk alone. Historians still argue whether her exile was forced or self-imposed. You stare at the lone figure. For a moment you imagine yourself there. Alone. Outside the circle. Is that what this is, a pattern repeating? The wind howls outside the tower, slipping through cracks and whistling like an old tune. The fire flickers. And then a knock, 3 soft raps, then silence. You and Tomlin exchange a look. The tower has no door, not anymore. And yet, he slowly rises, stepping toward the ruined archway. You follow, heart thudding in your ears. Nothing there, until you look down at the base of the arch where no one stood just moments before lies another object. A folded cloth, inside it a silver ring, engraved with the same 3-spoked mark now on your wrist. No note, no blood, no sign of who brought it. Just the gift. Or the warning. Tomlin doesn't touch it, but you do. And the moment your fingers close around it, the fire behind you flares, high, wild, almost blue, then dies, back to normal. You both stand frozen. That's new, Tomlin says quietly. Definitely new. You slip the ring onto your finger. It fits perfectly. The silence that follows is not empty. It's full, the way a breath is full just before a word. And somewhere you swear you hear it again. Your name, only this time. It's in Ellerin's voice. Morning arrives without birdsong, and that alone is enough to put you on edge. You wake with the silver ring still snug on your finger, the pendant resting warm against your chest, and the page from the Book of Roots folded in your cloak. Tomlin has already stirred the embers back into a small, stubborn flame. He offers you a strip of dried meat that smells like smoke and mystery. Today's the day, he says, with unsettling certainty. We're going back. Back where? To Fruchmere. Your first reaction is to laugh. Your second is to wince. Because the idea of returning to the village where this all began, where you were paraded like a star-blessed savior, isn't comforting. It feels like the calm before a thunderstorm. Still, the map points back in that direction. Specifically, it shows a spot near the heartwood tree. Not at it, beneath it. You set off under a sun, half swallowed by clouds. The landscape seems older than before, like every tree has been waiting decades, just for today. As you pass through Greldon Hollow again, people stop and stare. Not with wonder this time, with caution. Rumor has moved faster than your footsteps. One shopkeeper offers you a pastry. Another spits after you pass. Tomlin shrugs. Fame is fickle, especially mystical fame. You spend the night in an abandoned sheep pen just outside the village wall. Tomlin keeps watch while you sleep under a wool blanket that smells faintly of goat. Sometime near dawn, you dream again. The raven perches on a branch above you, the white feather gleaming in moonlight. Below the heartwood glows its roots, pulsing with green light. And standing at the base is a figure in a cloak of vines. Eleren. She raises a hand. The ring on her finger is identical to yours. And then she speaks. Just one word. Below. You wake with a start. Tomlin hands you a cup of warmed nettle tea. I assume the tree told you something? He says, far too casually, for someone discussing arboreal ghost messages. You nod. We need to go under. So you make your way back to the heartwood. It's just as tall, just as ancient. The carvings on the bark look deeper now, hungrier. You circle its base searching, and finally, beneath a knot of twisted roots, you find it. A small stone door half buried in soil and bramble. No lock, no handle. Just the three-spoked mark carved deeply in the center. You press your palm to it. The ring pulses. So does the pendant, and the door opens. What lies beneath isn't darkness, not entirely. It's a spiral staircase hewn from the same stone as the heartwood's roots, lit faintly by moss that glows like starlight. Did they teach you anything about sacred tree sellers in history class, you whisper? Tomlin grins. Only that you should never trust moss that glows. Down you go step by echoing step. The air changes again, thickens. It smells of rain-soaked earth and something floral, like the scent left behind after someone has just vanished. The staircase ends in a vast cavern, and there in the center a pool, still, mirror-like. Around the edges, 9 stone pedestals. Familiar symbols mark them the same from the stone circle. Spiral, eye, serpent, tree, and in the center of the pool, standing on a small island, a figure. You know her before she turns. Eleren. She's not alive, not dead either. Something in between. Her skin shimmers with pale green light like a reflection you can't quite focus on. Her voice comes not from her lips, but from all around. You walked the path, she says. You bore the signs. But now comes the choice. Tomlin doesn't move. You step forward. What choice? Ellerin raises a hand. A pulse flows through the pool to continue the pattern or to end it. A long silence. You ask the question you've carried since the beginning. Why me? Because you were listening, she says softly. Even in your world of noise you listened. And the old places heard you. She steps back. A stone rises from the water. Upon it another pendant, this one cracked. Blackened, still humming faintly. Ellerin's Tomlin whispers. Take it, she says, and you become the next bearer. The next to wander, to guide, to lose, and remember. You stare at it, another path, another weight, or you look at the pendant on your own chest, whole, warm, yours. What if I refuse, you ask? Eliren's light dims slightly, then the pattern changes, and we see what comes. Historians still argue whether the moon bearers were chosen, or if they simply stepped forward when the story needed them most. But right now the choice is yours. You reach out, and just before your fingers touch Ellerin's pendant, you stop and turn away. The cavern pulses, once surprised. Then, calm. The cracked pendant fades. The water ripples. Ellerin smiles. You changed the story, she says. Good. You climb the stairs in silence. Tomlin follows. The door closes behind you. The heartwood is quiet again. You've chosen a different ending.